Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hey everyone, and we're back another week, another podcast, and I'm here. This is Amber Garvin, and I'm here with my co-host, Cindy Murray and Kristen Hessler.
Hello. Hi.
And today we are going to be talking about day trips. But first, I kind of wanted to mention that tonight, since it's July 13th, tonight is going to be a full moon, and it's going to be called the Buck Moon. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why it's called the Buck Moon. It's July, and it's the full moon, and it's mid-year, and this is when the buck's antlers are at their full growth. And every year, the bucks shed their antlers, and then they grow them back prettier than the year before. So it's called the Buck Moon because this is when the buck's antlers are at their full growth before they shed them. And so the Buck Moon is all about change, doing new things, and maybe even slowing things down and looking at yourself, making new goals, which goes perfectly with our topic of day trips because you need to get out there and try something new. Go on a day trip. Do some self-care. And we here at Modern Musings, we're all about self-care. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about day trips. So tell me, ladies, what do you define as a day trip?
To me, a day trip is anything that you can go to and do within and come back home within one day. Mm-hmm. So it could be 100 miles away or more. I've driven several hundred miles and back in a day. So I would call that a day trip. Anything I can get to and do.
It doesn't require like an overnight stay.
An overnight stay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you don't have to go and get a hotel. Any kind of overnight stay. So I guess I can talk about some of my favorite day trips. Maybe going to the local park or
yeah, you don't have to go very far to experience a day trip. You can just step
local
out
lake.
your front door, take a walk.
Yeah.
Or you can just get in your car and drive any direction as well. You know, there's no end to things you can do as a day trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember the name of it. Like going to the local state park. I mean, or just a local park or a local lake. Whether you live in the United States or you live somewhere else, just something neat to go out and walk around and get out of the house, take a picnic.
So a nature excursion.
Yeah, nature excursion. Those are my
always
favorite.
good. I've done several of those to local state parks here in Texas, or even in the neighboring cities or my own city. Mm-hmm. Those are fun to do.
My husband really likes wrestling. And there is a wrestling museum in a city that's about 2 hours from here. And we've often talked about taking a day trip, get in the car in the morning, drive out there, go have lunch somewhere, go to the museum, maybe walk around or go shopping or something else. My idea of a day trip is like maybe doing like one or two activities, maybe planning a meal around it. So where your destination is, because I like to plan things, I think like, okay, I want to make sure like that we go try something.
Yeah. Do something new.
Explore a new restaurant or maybe go to a place where I haven't been in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it has to be completely spontaneous. Hey, let's go on a day trip and let's drive somewhere.
Is the exact opposite.
Yeah,
of
I know.
me.
Like you're
like
talking about planning it
like,
out, and I'm just like, man, I just want to go on a
enjoy
drive.
I like both
and
kinds.
pick
I do
a
love
random
the
restaurant,
stuff,
pick
yeah.
a random
I
whatever.
get in trouble whenever I do that because then I end up going into like a 5-star restaurant and then I'm like, well, I can't really afford this place, but I walked in, so now I have to eat there.
Well, I mean,
that's what Yelp is for. Or
Yeah,
yeah, I
or
was
Google,
about to say,
you
like,
know.
okay, yeah. Normally, I mean, normally I'll like consult Google and see the
Oh, yeah, look for
stars
ratings
next to
and-
it and the
yeah.
ratings. Like, is this
You
way
consult
too?
the stars.
Yeah, no, not the stars. I meant not the stars. Like, what are the little
little bit.
dollar signs? Like, if it's
Yes.
a $1 sign or a $2 sign, I can afford it. If it's
Yeah.
any more than a $2 sign, I probably won't go
That
in
is
that
fun
restaurant.
though. Like I think that would be a fun like surprise, but you can't like with a kid. I can't be like, "Ooh, we're gonna go on a surprise and you're gonna love it," and then get in the car and go to some random like haystack, and then it'll be a total letdown. So I plan things because
Well,
Well, I
and
mean,
like
with a
I said,
kid,
I
it's
like-
different.
I
Yeah.
like both things though, you know. I've done the planned ones. Hey, next weekend let's drive out to Mineral Wells State Park and go hike with the dog or something. You know, I've done those and I love that. But I also love that that just spontaneous. Hey, let's go downtown. My husband just did that a little while back. We had some family in for a visit, and the kids had never ridden the train before. And if you've never ridden the train or the subway or whatever, I encourage you to get out and give it a try because it's quite an adventure. And I stayed at home. I didn't get to go, but Kristen went with them, and they just got on the train and went to downtown and kind of explored a little in downtown Dallas, which is my niece and nephew had never been to a big city before. And so, and if you are not sure how big Dallas is, the metropolitan area here is actually the third, it's about to be the third largest
in
the nation. So, right behind,
New York.
New York and LA. So we're a huge metropolitan area. And when you go downtown, there are these towering skyscrapers everywhere. And, you know, they're young kids, you know, they're teenagers, and they had never seen anything like it. And they were totally amazed just going downtown and checking that out, you know. And I love doing that stuff too. My husband and I often just get on the train and go in search of a tiny art museum or a gallery that's got something on display, or a live music performance, or some little hole in the wall restaurant that has great reviews. Or there's in urban areas, there are so many little pockets of great entertainment and food and things like that it's I call those a day trip because you
can spend a whole day.
You can
doing
spend a whole day just walking
stuff
around
like
down
that,
there,
you know.
And so I'm going to talk about some of that kind of stuff on my blog later this week. But we love doing those things. But we also love the nature trips. I mean, we like to go to the parks. We've got lots of big parks out here and nature preserves and things like
Yeah.
that. Those are great to go to.
I think when I was a kid, my one of my best friend as a kid, Stacy, her family, their favorite thing to do was go rock and gem hunting.
Oh, that's fun.
And we would go on random, spontaneous day trips. And her mom had the guide to the best rock hunting in Texas or something like that. And we would go, you know, on a day trip, and we would go rock hunting. Like one...
Man, I want that book.
I want to know where you rock hunted because y'all grew up not too far from where we are. So
Yeah,
we
I'm
went
like,
to
I love rocks.
like a... You know where Alvord is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
Small town
that's
in Texas.
yeah,
Small.
that's the one of the places that we went to.
Oh.
There's like a big pyrite deposit
Oh.
out in Alvord, or there was when I was a kid. It's probably picked over now, and that's like one of the random road trips that we took. Like, hey, let's go rock hunting, and I remember it specifically because I fell in quicksand and ended up mud up to like my chest.
Oh,
I
wow.
know. How do I know two people that fell in quicksand? That's weird. Like,
yeah, like
how does
and
that
I
happen?
went home encrusted in mud, and my
Oh.
mom was like, "You are not walking into this house." She hosed me off.
So let's talk about the amazing opportunities to behold on a road trip. I
love road trips.
Road trips. I know some people are just like, I want to fly there. I want to get there and be there.
Oh no, I love being in the car with my friends.
I love, like,
And-
the journey is half of the fun.
The
It is.
snacks in the car and either the big
Snacks,
tall cup
music.
of coffee or a big cup of Route 44 Sonic drink.
Yes.
And the music. I have road trip playlists that are
Yes,
just for that.
I like to make a new
So-
playlist for each road trip. It's like when we went to Denver, I went with my friend Emily. We went and we had a rental car. We didn't drive to Denver, but we flew there and then we drove around, and I made a playlist for the car that was like John Denver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not like that. But yeah, playlists are
I love
definitely
playlists and
fun.
singing along, and I don't know what it is, but Kristen and I, when we used to get in the car,
Every time we go on a road trip, two songs come up.
2 songs,
Four
Name 'em.
Non-Blondes. And I said, hey, yeah. You know that song. Anyway, and then the other one, you cannot be in the car and not play along, but Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Those
Oh.
two songs always come on.
Every time
whether
Kristen
we're
are in the
listening to
car.
the radio or it's on the playlist. Like, it's mandatory playlist now.
Yeah.
But
But
that's
it used to come up on the radio
Yes,
every time we
road
would get in the car and go on a road
Yep.
trip. Every time.
Never fails.
And it could be a short road trip or a long trip, whatever. It was always come up.
I love road trips. I actually have one coming up. My boyfriend and I are going to New Orleans this month, so I'll have to
that's-
blog about
That's
that.
not really a day trip, but
No, it's not a
No,
day trip, but it's
that
a
one-
road
That
trip.
one will take you a whole day to get there, but I do love
Yeah.
that one.
About 8 hours. I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah.
It is. It's
technically,
very-
you can drive there and then drive.
Well, yeah, you
back.
could, but boy, you would be
Technically.
very tired.
Here's the question. If you're going on a day trip, what's your rule of thumb on snacks in the car? How far of the drive does it need to be to deem it worthy of having a cooler of drinks or snacks?
Oh, snacks all the time, no matter if I'm driving an hour. Always.
Well, I
I
don't know
always
about the
have to have a
cooler.
coffee, and I always have to have like peanuts or something.
I don't
like
always
that,
do
like
the
always a
cooler,
snack.
but we do
Right.
stop at the gas station or the Quick Trip or whatever and
Yeah.
fill up on
I mean, my
drinks.
hometown is 3 hours away, so every time I go there and come back in one day, it's like a road trip. So I've always got to have some kind of snack.
I used to go to a scrapbook store south of here in Corsicana, and it's like a little over an hour away.
That's a
And I
road
would-
trip.
That's a road trip. That's a day trip. There you
That
go.
was literally a day
It
trip.
was a day trip
Yeah, a
because
day
we would
trip,
go
'cause you
down there
go
and we'd take our
spend
scrapbook stuff and hang out
time
at the
and
store
Go
and
to places.
go eat and then drive back in the evening or whatever.
We were talking earlier about the town that I used to live in before I moved to Dallas. It's north of Dallas called Denton, and it's about 40 minutes away. But it turns into a day trip because I go up there and I want to shop at every store that I used to love and shop at. I want to eat at my favorite restaurant, get
There's
my
some good
favorite
ones there.
coffee, go to all of my favorite stores because when's the next time I'm going to even drive
Right.
up that way?
So for me, like, I refuse to just drive to a town that far away. Like, if it's more than like 20, 30 miles away, I'm not going to just drive up there for one thing.
Oh,
I'm
no.
gonna
Yeah,
use
no,
it.
you gotta
Like, I'm
make a
gonna
day
make
of
it
it.
worth my time.
Yeah.
So if there's some other special things there, I'm going to try to do other things there.
Like a
and
cute museum or something.
yeah,
or-
Yeah.
or go to like one of the stores that I really like, even,
Mm-hmm.
just to look, because I'm like, I'm not driving all the way to Denton, because we were literally having this conversation. Denton is kind of like, I don't know, really far from all the rest
Well,
of the
it's-
Metroplex. It's kind of
I
separated
mean, it's not
because
But
that
there's
it's
a
far,
really
lake.
not
but
because
it's not,
it's
but
technically
the
part of the
drive-
Metroplex now.
Yeah,
drive
but
is
it's
kinda
an
boring.
annoying drive up I-35. We were talking about how you can't really get to Denton without doing these weird back roads unless you go up I-35.
Well,
and
that
that's
is
what
true.
makes
And
it annoying.
But I drive up there all the time because my niece Ashley
Yeah.
is in
Oh,
school there.
okay.
And my friend lives just south of there.
Yeah.
I used
and
to
so-
live there, and I drove to the Metroplex every day to work. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
I'm like,
and-
I'm not even going to go there once a year.
And
Like,
when
it's
she
too far.
and when
Well,
she lived there, I came to see her maybe twice. No,
right?
Well, yeah, we always drove up to see you, and then I would drive across the lake when I worked at Dillard's,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would drive. Now I work in downtown Dallas, and so I would drive 40 minutes, 45 minutes, over an hour in the morning in traffic to go to work, and it was
You
like
were
a
taking like a day trip every day.
yeah, I was
Every
taking
day
a
for
day
work.
trip
Ugh.
every day, and if I took the train, it was like 5 hours on the train every day. So that's definitely a day trip.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun things to do there, and that's like any urban area. There's so many hidden gems that people don't know about. It's my husband is on some kind of weird mailing list, I guess, because he gets all these notifications of all these interactive exhibits and video artists and things like that, and so we like to go to these little hole in the wall galleries and
I love stuff like
see interactive artwork and stuff like that, and they're just everywhere, and you would never know that they were there unless you just kind of go exploring, and that's what we like to do. We like to explore all that stuff, and we found a hidden gem. It's not really hidden, it was in plain view, but for us it was a hidden gem. We went down a while back to one exhibit that was in a little courtyard area, and as we were approaching it, we looked down the street and we could see there was another video exhibit going on, like a couple of blocks away. And so we went to the first exhibit, and then we walked down to the second one and found a whole host of live music and art exhibits and all kinds of things very close to where Amber works.
Yeah,
which was
literally
very odd.
right across the street from where I work.
and I didn't even know it was there, and that was actually where we took my niece and nephew to, because it was like just a really cool thing. It's the AT&T Discovery Gardens, and AT&T has set up this whole little park, and
There's like a green, like a AstroTurf lawn for
it's a
people to
green
go
space.
lay out.
Yes.
And they have these big screens that they do watch parties for the local basketball team, the Dallas Mavericks. And there's all kinds of, there's some restaurants, and then there's a little
like
cafeteria.
a whole open little, what do you call that? The exchange.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
called
a big
the Exchange
open
Bar and a cafeteria.
Yeah, with all kinds of different food in there and
Mm-hmm.
bars, and then the AT&T building itself, the ground floor is a ginormous art exhibit.
Yeah.
That's going on all the time, and it's just really cool. And we would have never found that unless we had gone down to this
Yeah.
other thing. But you can just start exploring in your neighborhood and find
Wherever you live, yeah.
Well, and this is another thing. My husband and I used to do a fun thing called geocaching, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yes, I've done that before.
It is
Geocaching
really
is pretty fun.
Fun, and you can do it locally. You can go on trips and do it. You can do it all over the world. It's an app.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot more accessible now because of smartphones.
Yes, because
of the
originally when it first started,
satellite
it was
data.
like you had to look it up on your computer.
Yeah,
And you use GPS coordinates off of their website, and you put it into your GPS device, and it would kind of guide you. It's like a treasure hunt. And
you can even leave your own treasure.
you can. There's some of the caches. That's CACHE, cache, like on your computer. they'll leave like a little box with some trinkets in it or whatever, and you can leave a trinket and take a trinket. And they usually have a logbook that you log in when you find it. And then some of them are what they call a virtual cache, which is just a point of interest, maybe a historical marker or a piece of artwork or something like that. And you can do this all over everywhere. And we found a little cemetery in our own neighborhood, or not too far from our neighborhood, that we didn't even know was there. It was in this little, 2 or 3 blocks from where we normally drive, and we had never knew it was there. And there's like down in South Dallas, I think they've got the burial site for Stevie Ray Vaughan, who was, a big blues musician that very well loved here in Texas. But there's just huge, it's a lot of fun, and you can do it in your local park. You can go on a vacation and do it. So that's one of my favorite things to do.
That was fun. This isn't a day trip, but we were on a family trip in a different part of the state. So we were actually staying in a hotel. So it wasn't a day trip, just a disclaimer. But for the day, we did geocaching, and I remembered going to all these different historical markers, and that was fun because it was just a surprise. We had no idea what these different, geocaching
because
things were. We just drove.
They give you
that's a cool thing to do on vacation. Yeah.
And so we got to we were actually on Galveston Island, and we explored all of Galveston Island through geocaching, and we learned a lot about the history of Galveston. And that's a great way to learn about the history of your local area, by doing those virtual caches,
or your local really cool. area adjacent. So even if you live in a small town, you could go to the next closest small town or city
somewhere
and explore there. I think that's the whole idea, is just getting out and exploring.
It is. It really is. And I love it. And you can do it by bike. You can do it by car. You can do it by walking. Chances are there's one within walking distance of you, unless you're in a very rural area.
Get out and explore would be to play Pokemon Go.
It's kind of like geocaching.
Yeah, I know it
very much is. I wanted to play that. That sounded like fun.
There are a lot of people that go around downtown and play. Like, I have some coworkers that actively play Pokemon Go, and they go on day trips to catch Pokemon.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Different. I actually did that at one of the bigger malls out here.
Oh, well, it's a great way to get exercise too.
Yeah, and get out and about.
I do exercise. Like that. Yeah.
And another thing that my boyfriend and I have just started kind of doing is he has a book, like the Haunted Places in Texas book.
Oh, I've heard of that book.
So we have, and I actually work across the street from one of them. The Adolphus Hotel is haunted in downtown Dallas. So we have been going to our local area and kind of checking out the haunted places like White Rock Lake and the Adolphus. We creeped around the Adolphus a couple of weeks ago. So we've been kind of doing like a day trip type thing with that. And we
fine. Well, now the ones that are a little further away, you'll have to plan them, won't you?
Yes, we will have to plan them. Well, okay. So last December, my boyfriend's friends kidnapped him on his birthday, and they went to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. I think that's like 2 or 3 hours away. So that was, not really planned. Like, they did it at midnight.
Oh, gosh.
Well, they probably did plan it.
Well, so they planned it.
He didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, he didn't know.
I've always wanted to go, and we've tried to do it. There's a haunted restaurant in Waxahachie that's about an hour's drive for me, and it's called the Catfish. Is it the Catfish Shack, Catfish Station, something like that? It's a catfish place.
It
This is
will
one I
be
haven't heard
on
of.
the blog.
We'll put it on the blog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the link.
But
We'll,
anyway,
we'll figure it out.
I've always wanted to go there, and we've actually planned that day trip several times and wound up. If you're going to a specific place, this is my tip for you: plan it out. Don't just drive there because it might be closed.
Which is why we still haven't seen the wrestling museum, because we planned to go there and they were literally closed. It says permanently closed. Catfish Plantation.
The catfish plates in Waxahachie is permanently closed.
Well, bummer.
But yeah,
Probably COVID.
Travis and I rolled up to the museum and they were closed.
Oh,
And this was after we had planned our meal time to be at a certain time so that the museum would open at a certain time. But, because of COVID, a lot of these places were closed.
Yes.
This was back in 2020, August. So, they were actually not doing any walkthroughs of the museum. So he was like, yeah, y'all come back another time. So we just have kind of put it off. And it's something that we really want to do. And,
well, that's similar to that trip that we took last fall.
you
and
really do have to kind of think ahead, unless you're
and
just
call
gonna
ahead.
be.
Don't just look at their website.
Yeah, don't just go on the website. Call them and make sure they're actually open that day, and that the day you're going isn't the day like if you just happen to be there on Mother's Day. Some places only have special menus, or they're not doing certain services.
Well, I understand planning that if there's a specific place that y'all are wanting to go to. I understand.
But yeah, you like the random surprise of just rolling into
random
a new town
and we do that too. I mean, we go into a random town and we go, let's just pick a place. I mean,
oh yeah,
well,
and that's kind of fun.
One time, Kristen and I went on a trip to Austin, and it was very random, and I found lots of cool stuff to do. Just not even planning it, just driving down there, driving back the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was fun.
Then I found some cute little stores and
I
everything.
love shopping in little town. I like going
little town.
I like going to little
shopping,
towns locally, and that used to when I was really working with my craft business and promoting my crafting cruises, we would drive around to all the little towns that had scrapbook stores, and that was a day trip for me. It was more fun than just work, because we would start and we would just drive the circuit from one store to another. And they're 30 minutes away at the closest, so, it's probably 30 minutes between each store, because you're going to the next town over and the next town over and the next town over. And, we just
with
pick
traffic,
a random spot.
Yeah, definitely 30 minutes.
And then we're stopping in this little scrapbook store, and we're shopping, and we're enjoying and meeting the owner and, and talking to them. And then we get in the car and we drive to the next town and, do it all over again. And then, lunchtime, we'd pick a random place to go eat, always somewhere different,
Those are my favorite day trips too.
They're fun. I had so much fun doing that. And it's really weird to me, because I talk to people here in the Dallas area, and maybe it's these big urban areas, because I grew up in West Texas. Lubbock is a big sprawling, it's not a huge city by population.
It's in the middle of nowhere, though.
It is. It's in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere.
And everybody comes from far and wide to come into this little town. I mean, people will drive from hours away to get to Lubbock.
Just to shop at Walmart.
Just to shop at the Walmart or whatever, because there is nothing else anywhere around. And when I worked there, I lived on one side of town and worked on the other. But here, people don't want to drive. And that always
it baffles me,
It does. It baffles me, because I'm like, they're like, oh no, you want to go downtown? No, I don't want to go down there. It takes too long.
Yeah.
And it's, 20 minutes is too far.
Yeah,
they don't want to drive
at my
20 minutes.
work, when they realized I lived 40 minutes away in Denton, they're like, how do you do that?
Yeah. And I'm just like,
Podcasts, people. I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah. You
There
can
we
listen
go.
to our podcast. Yes.
I mean, when I lived in Salt Lake City, I worked in North Salt Lake, which was I lived in South Salt Lake and worked in North Salt Lake, which was about an hour and 10 minutes in traffic from one side to the
Yeah.
other. And I drove it every day, an hour and 10 minutes there, an hour and 10 minutes back in traffic.
So you get what I'm saying. It's nothing to drive 45 minutes to get from Dallas to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
To me, I would drive there. I don't want to do it every day for work. No. But, to go, see a museum.
Yeah, to
or-
go see something new.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I
think there's
definitely would
something
do it.
about treating yourself to something different.
Yeah.
You were talking about, like going and spontaneously picking something. I'm really indecisive person, and if I'm caught with, oh my gosh, I need to pick something, I will always pick the same thing that I've always had because I know that it's okay.
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
safe. And so, like, if I find myself in a random town I've never been in before, I'll look at all the restaurants and I'll be overwhelmed that there's like 50 different restaurants to choose from, and I'll go Sonic, and then I'll just go to Sonic.
Oh,
I
A
know.
lot of people are like
This
that.
will be after I look at all of the restaurants and I look at all their
Reviews.
menus and I look at all their reviews, and I've read all of them and I've picked out what I'm going to eat at like 15 of them, but I can't decide.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
I get overwhelmed with choices. So I think that's why I like planning, because I can sit there for weeks and like oogle over it
Yeah.
and then finally make a decision.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I make a plan A and I make a plan B, because if plan A is closed, then I have plan B. And I enjoy that because for me, it's a little bit less stressful because it's not on the fly. It's more relaxing to me. It's like, some people like to window shop on Amazon. I like to look at like destinations and plan trips that I haven't gone on yet. I have a lot of planned trips. Like, I'm gonna
Obviously,
go here,
I do too. That's
and,
what I do for a
like,
living.
it's fun. Like, I go, if I
Oh,
leave
yeah.
on Thursday, after work at like 10 o'clock, we can all get in the car and we can get to, Tennessee by time to check in at a hotel.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't mind doing that. That'd be cool. And then I'm like, oh, and we can eat at this barbecue place because I've seen this one has like really good reviews. And then we can go shop at this place and look at this museum. And then we can be back in like 2 days. And I have it like all checked up in my brain.
I was trying just a few weeks ago, trying to talk some people into going with me to Wichita Falls, which is really close to where
I grew up,
Amber
yeah.
grew up. And I'm like, there's a scrapbook store there that shows you how to make the Yeti cups with the resin on them, and make them real decorated. And I'm like, I want to go take that class. Nobody
I can
wants
tell
to go
you
with
where
me
to
because it's
eat
a
in
2
Wichita
hour.
Falls.
Oh, well, I know where to eat there too because I've been there several times. But it's like nobody wants to drive the 2 hours to get there, and I'm like, it's just 2 hours. And that brings me back to another
Day
thing.
to get out and do stuff. Go
Be
take a
now,
class 2 hours.
just-
It's like
just
live in the now.
live in
And
the now.
enjoy the car ride getting there.
Yes.
I think that's why people,
They
they're
don't
like,
wanna
oh,
sit in
I
the
don't wanna
car
drive
for
in the
2
car.
hours,
But that's
yeah.
the fun part to me.
It is
That's
the
half
fun-
I
the
like
it's
fun.
part of
looking
the
at the
fun. I
scenery,
love-
listening to the music, the playlist,
And
the deep
snacks
conversation.
and
We
the-
talk. That's part of what started this podcast was us sitting in cars just talking, and yeah. And if there's nobody in the car with me and I'm driving by myself, I'm usually on the phone with somebody just talking because
Yeah.
I don't like to drive by myself. So, yeah.
And it makes the time go by faster.
does. It
Like
really
if you're
does.
talking to somebody or you're on the phone, and then you're there in a blink of the eye.
But I do enjoy the car ride. I really do because I got my drink, I got my snacks. It's a plan. It's a little mini vacation, and
Gets you out of the house.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
I think
I
those
know
are
a lot of
important.
there's a lot of, you want to stay home and it's fun, but sometimes you just got to get out and go out for the day. If it's not, like you said, go to a different scrapbook store in each town, or go to if you're in the metro area, go around to each town and go to a local store to that town.
Yeah.
I know, I don't think I've mentioned it before, but I do an influencing Instagram where I go to different restaurants and I review them, and I try different beauty products and I review them. And it's kind of honest reviews from my perspective. And my thing this year is coffee moments. That's my theme for the year. Trying a new coffee place. My goal is to hit 22 coffee moments in 2022. And so I will make like a 30-minute trip on the weekend to a different town to try a new coffee shop that I've never tried before.
Well, that's kind of like my goal of, hitting all the scrapbook stores. Now, obviously, over time, a lot of those scrapbook stores have closed, and COVID probably closed the rest of them. But there's not very many open anymore. But
R.I.P. Scrap Denton.
Yeah, that I know. I missed that store. That was a really good one. But Thistle is open, so if you like reused, renewing, reuse, reduce, what is it? Reduce, recycle, whatever. Craft supplies.
I'm a teacher. I recycle everything.
Oh yes. Well, that's there. So. And there's probably one somewhere around you too, because I know that Scrap was part of a larger organization. That's why it was called Scrap Denton. And there are other scrap stores in other parts of the country. So I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, just
trying new things in new towns around you, away,
and that self-care. Get out and give yourself, get out of the house, get away from the work,
get away from your TV,
put those
Netflix,
things aside, and just enjoy the company that you're with.
Live in the now.
And live in the now. Yeah. And that's something we're all trying to do these days. And
now I'm inspired to go home and plan a day trip and actually go on a day trip.
Yeah. Don't just plan it, go.
Yeah.
I know you're sitting there planning
the
all
weird
these
quirks of Kristen. Now you know my secret.
Yeah. See,
I plan vacations.
I went on
a
vacation. I went to a friend's wedding in Iowa a few years ago, and I didn't plan any of it. I was like, I'm just going to drive up there. And I'm going to stop when I get tired and stay at whatever hotel is available. I didn't plan any restaurant that I went to. If I saw something cool on the side of the road, I stopped.
I love those.
And I did it by myself.
Was that way. So COVID marriage, our wedding, we were going to go to Hawaii. That was the plan. We had been thinking like all year, and my father-in-law was like, hurry up and plan your trip. Figure out where you're going to go so I can help you.
Aren't you glad you didn't?
Well, I planned it, but, we were like, we're going to do Hawaii. And so that was kind of set. We hadn't picked out hotels or flight or anything. But then it was like, COVID hit, about 6 months before our wedding. So then it was like, maybe we won't be having a honeymoon at all. And then as it got closer to the time for the wedding, we decided to do like an RV trip. And the RV, I had literally planned out this RV trip. Like, we had rented the RV and everything was all set. Like, we had the groceries and everything, like the list of groceries we were going to buy. And the RV fell through the rental. And so literally, like, that was the day before the wedding. And most people would just like fall apart and bawl into tears. But then I was like, you know what? Plan B. We decided just to pack our suitcases, and we just kind of put all the other stuff we didn't need back in my father-in-law's car, and he took it back to our house, and we just took our suitcases with us, and we got in the car and we drove to Colorado, and we had an entire week of vacation that had absolutely no plans. My husband booked our hotel on the drive on the way to Colorado. We stayed in Amarillo because that was about halfway. And we stayed at a restaurant, or we ate at a restaurant that is like infamous, like the giant big steak where you get to eat like the whole steak, you get it for free or whatever. We ate at that.
We'll link that also.
Oh, right. We did all this spontaneous stuff. And that was probably one of the most fun trips I'd ever been on. just
Well,
because we were just like, hey, what do you want to do today?
My trip to New Orleans that I haven't planned anything.
Mark and I did that in New Orleans as well. The only thing we planned was when we were driving to get there and to come home, and what hotel we were staying at.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the only plan. Are the
nothing else
days
was
that we're
planned.
going.
We did have Now I take that back. We did have one reservation at the Court of the Two Sisters, I believe. And because somebody recommended that to us for our anniversary, because it was an anniversary trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to go there for dinner, and I highly recommend it. It was great. But we also did that, and Kristen probably remembers this, in New Mexico one year, and it wound up being a series of day trips. My in-laws had a cabin up in the mountains in Ruidoso, New Mexico, and we went up there for a week, just a vacation, and we used that as our hub, or base, or whatever you want to call it, and then we took day trips out. Every day we went, a different direction and did some different things. So we went and had a picnic up at Bonita Lake or whatever it was, and then I can't even remember. We drove down to White Sands, and we saw the
Alamogordo.
Love
White Sands.
The Alamogordo Missile Range,
yeah,
and the museum
love
there.
that.
Carlsbad
Love
Caverns.
it. Oh, Carlsbad.
We
love
did
that.
We go to Oh, yes, we did. We went to
Carlsbad
Carlsbad Caverns.
We went to
New
the Space
Mexico is a
Museum.
great place to
Carlsbad
visit if you've never
Caverns.
been.
Carlsbad Caverns is actually, well, not from here, but if in other parts of Texas, a day trip, because we've done that before. We got up early in the morning and drove from Lubbock down to Carlsbad, New Mexico, which is down at the southeastern part of New Mexico, and then took the hike through the caverns, which are phenomenal. I will link those. And
if you haven't been, you need to go.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And then we, drove back that night, and it was really nice. I had no idea you could get there in a day and see it all. Now, you are on the short tour, which is still very long. There, if you want to stay there, there's even more things that you can see. But that was a great little trip that we took, and we did a lot of different we went horseback riding one day, and we just took all these little day trips from that one location, and that was really cool.
Yeah, that was a fun trip. I didn't know that was so spontaneous. I thought y'all planned all that out.
No, there was like no. I think
8.
we just kind of figured it out when we got there. Let's do this. Okay, and we got in the car and we drove to Carlsbad. And that was really cool.
That was
I thought
before
that was
the internet and cell phones.
Yeah,
that was paper
Totally.
maps
Yeah,
and phone books.
Yeah, you really couldn't plan a lot of that out like using the internet anyway.
I mean, you could call those places,
yeah.
but you didn't have a phone book. You would, you'd have to call information and get the phone number.
Do the work.
Yeah. But we did a lot of stuff like that, and that was a lot of fun. I do like that.
My family did stuff like that, like go to a vacation destination and then do little day trips.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, my mom and grandma and I would go to Branson, Missouri, and then they didn't really plan much past that. We always stayed in the same hotel, and so we always had the hotel booked. But then, when we got there, we saw what was available, and we went out and did stuff around there that was available.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff available in a lot of places, and I think people sometimes are surprised at the things that are in their local area. Most towns have some sort of museum, like a historical society or something, where
Even the small towns.
Even the small towns. I like to go church hopping, like the older
churches or
and
town halls, like
Yes.
city halls.
Oh, I have a friend who collected photos of city halls for I don't know if she's.
I have a
got
friend
them
that
all
does
not.
that also.
And she would drive to a different county and go to their county, not the city hall, but the county courthouses. That's what she liked.
Yeah.
And so she would take pictures of the county courthouses, and her goal was to hit all of the counties in Texas, which there's 210
A lot.
There's a
200
lot.
and
There's a lot of counties in Texas.
There's a lot.
And so she wanted to hit all of them. And so we did some of those little day trips with her. And that was a lot of fun too. So at one time when I was out with her, we took a day trip out. Our base was actually College Station. We had gone down to do something with my son at college, I think. I don't remember what it was specifically. He was doing an overnight, I think, at the college. And so we took, before he started going there as a student. And so we dropped him off for his thing. And we were like, well, what are we going to do? We just went to all these little counties around looking for the little courthouses while we were there. And we stumbled across, some little county fair thing that was going on. It was a kolache festival. That's what it was.
Oh.
And this is like deep down in the German
that must
heritage
have been in
area.
West Texas.
No, that was in
I've heard of the kolache festival, though. I have.
Caldwell, maybe.
That's
I think
worth a day trip. To
it
go to
is.
Kolache.
It was delicious. We brought lots of kolaches home with us, and then on the way we stopped at Brenham, I think that's the town where the Bluebell ice cream is, and went to the Bluebell ice cream factory. And, we just did all kinds of little crazy things like that. And if you're not familiar with Bluebell, that is another Texas favorite ice cream. So,
the factory is pretty cool. So if you're ever in that area, it's pretty cool. I went to a teacher training at Blinn College in Brenham.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of us did like a little day trip type thing whenever we had breaks, and one day we went to the Bluebell factory.
Yeah. So it's very cool. Very cool. So, I mean, you would be surprised at what kind of things. And a lot of times those different factories or whatever will have, especially if they're historic or very popular brands, will have factory tours and things like that you can take. So, you can check their website and find out if that's available. That's a fun little day trip too. So you don't have to really get too far away from home to do some exploring.
Yeah, explore. So what are we talking about next week, Cindy?
I believe Kristen is our hostess.
I am, and next week we are talking about balancing home and work.
Something I need to do more of.
So we all have different needs and different work environments. So I thought it would be very interesting, especially since a lot of us the dynamics have changed because of COVID
totally,
too.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be fun to talk about that because before people struggled with balancing home and work. Well, just start working from home and see how that works.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
It's a different juggle.
People think it's easy, but it's not.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so tune in next week. But before we go, we want to give a shout out to Creative Audio Tech and Red Door Studios for our jingle and our equipment. And we will see you.
No!
Sorry, I had to. It's been a while.
No, it wasn't.
We'll see you on our Facebook chat.
Yeah,
yes, we will see you on there.
Remember to check out our Facebook chat, and we will see you there. Leave us a message.
We want to see you
give us a rating,
comments and
leave a comment.
Ratings.
Read our blog. Don't just listen to the podcast. Read our blog and
join the conversation.
Yeah, join the conversation. And until next week, goodbye.
Bye.